Hello everyone, and thank you for joining us for this Highland dancing discussion which is featuring as part of Cowal's Virtual Gathering 2020. I'm thrilled to be joined by three Highland dancing legends. Firstly, Rachel McLagan, who in her career won over 100 championships, including the World Junior title in 2002. And also Gareth Mitchelson, who's a four-time World Adult Champion, 1985, 87, 88 and in 89. And also by a great friend of Cowal, Diane Krugh from Houston, Texas, who along with her sister Donna has managed one of the most successful dance schools in the USA, winning at the last count 25 US National Championships and the World Juvenile title in 1997. First of all, I'd like to start with you, if I possibly can, Diane. I'm really keen to understand, you've been coming across the Cowal for years. I can remember some of the times, in fact, just about every time I danced, looking up at the stand and you're sitting there in that seat at the front, watching every single count everyone was doing, never missing anything. What's your earliest memory of coming across the Cowal?
Oh, Deryck, I love Cowal. The Cowal weekend, rain, shine, it doesn't matter. You can't help but just come to Cowal and just leave there being so inspired. But I've been coming for 34 years in a row ever since. Actually, you won the World Championship, I think, in 85.
Yep.
Okay, right. And Nicola was second, and Audrey Chang was third.
That's right.
And there was more money spent on phone calls between Donna and I, because Donna was over, I wasn't over that year, that my husband said to me, from now on, honey, just go over there, okay? You'll be much happier and it'll be cheaper. So anyway, for 34 years in a row, I've been coming to Dunoon, although I was there twice previous to that. And I only missed one Cowal when my mom was in the Dunoon hospital. But anyway, I love it and I can't wait to be back next year.
And we're looking forward to, of course, having you back next year. What do you think makes the Cowal Games so special, Diane? What is it that makes it special? Is it the amphitheatre, the people, the camaraderie? What is it? Everything.
The whole atmosphere, everything. I mean, from the moment you take that ferry trip from across, okay? And I mean, I get goosebumps, okay? I get so excited. And, you know, honest to goodness, and I miss the old ferries, you know, and seeing everybody on them. And then, you know, and like, going into town and it's, as our kids call it, it's a Holywood of Scotland. You know, you walk down the streets and you're saying hello and you go, oh, so-and-so said hello to me. You know, the kids get excited. But the whole atmosphere and everybody's on such a hype and so excited and you know you're going to see the top in Highland dancing from all over the world. And it's the best weekend of the year. I swear, the best weekend of the year.
Great. Well, we're certainly looking forward to having you back again next year, Dan. I cannot wait to have you back across and catch up with you then.
I just want to say it's a privilege to be with you three world champions too. I think I was there when most of you won all your world championships. So what a privilege to be sitting here on this panel with you all.
Thanks, Dan. It's very, very nice of you. And as I said, I'm sure you didn't miss anything we did. You were watching every count we did, sitting there staring at us, which was great. I love watching. I love looking up from that board and seeing the legends in the stand that are watching. It's brilliant to have people there. It's a great amphitheatre. Rachel, what's your earliest memories of Cowal as well?
The first time I came to Cowal, I was 7, so 93, and came and danced in the 8s Scottish Open. And I think at that time it was, you knew Cowal as a competition for the dancing was huge, but you didn't really have an appreciation of just what a massive all-encompassing event it was. And we came over, we stayed in bed and breakfast at that time. We moved into the holiday village at Hunter's Quay when I was a bit older, but back then it was bed and breakfast, and you came over with my grandparents and we were there for a few days. And did, as Dan said, you were down the town to see all the shops and catch up with everybody, and the excitement of having to come over on the ferry. It was just the whole thing was just, I think, so much bigger than I sort of realised. And I remember dancing on we danced on the sideboard, so we were sat round on the sort of grassy banking there and looking over at the main stand and seeing the athletics happening and the pipe band competitions, and it was just just such a really special and just all-encompassing atmosphere. This just everything that was going on. You know, and we had funny little traditions in that first year of, you know, getting, you know, it's such a special day, so here's a bit of lucky white heather for you. And you know, we used to be there with Alison McGregor from my dancing school, and her mum used to, you know, dab a spot of whiskey behind your ears before you went up to compete. And you know, it was just little things like that, little Cowal traditions that, you know, these generations of dancers and dancer families had, that kind of let you know that this whole thing was just so special. And that's my sort of earliest memory of it. It's never really left me, that feeling of that first time, you know, and getting your first Cowal medals, you know, those little bronze medals in their boxes. We still have them all, and they're all so special.
And it can be quite a daunting place for a youngster coming. You know, the size of the stages, it's probably the biggest stages you'll ever dance on, the number of people, you know, watching. What sort of advice would you give for any youngsters coming across and dancing at their first Cowal, Rachel?
Oh, it's a tricky one, because now that you're away from the competitive side of it, you want to say, oh, soak up and enjoy it. But, you know, I'm sure dancing teachers would want us to say, actually focus and remember why you're there. But I used to always, because, you know, especially when you move on to the big stage in front of the grandstand, and as you say, you look at all of those people watching you, and you know that, you know, the legends of dancing are down there watching your every move. You know, I always used to try and find my mum. I just looked, I knew where she sat, and that was, I would hone in on just find my mum, lock eyes with her, and that was it. Then you just kind of, she would give you a wee smile, and you just knew that was, you know, you were ready. So just trying to kind of, when it comes to the competition side of it, it's trying to quieten down all the noise and just remember, right, well, this is just another dance, albeit a fairly important one, but, you know, find somebody that can sort of center you, and then just, focus on what you're there to do. And then once you're done, go and have fun.
Brilliant, great. Gareth, how about your first memory at Cowal?
My memory's not that very good, I have to say. Probably the early memories we had at Cowal, I was never there with that experience of winning championships. I was turning up there, dancing away. But obviously, being your brother, came back every year with trophies in the car. So my memories were seeing you on the platform, doing your winning, coming back with the trophies. That's pretty vague, but I mean, my earliest time at Cowal, that was donkey's back, longer than Diane's. Almost as long as Ronnie's, but yeah, probably. So looking to some of the bits, there was lots of little memories. When we were dancing, you qualified for the Worlds dance by dance. So you did the fling, you either qualified in the fling or you didn't. You danced the swords, qualified or you didn't. So some of my earliest great memories were qualifying in all four dances. Not picking up any medals, but qualifying in all four. That was a major event for me. Then, but again, back at that point in time, the Cowal only dished out medals for 4 places. Can't remember the announced 5th and 6th, but there were only 4 medals. Mm-hmm. So even at that point in time, qualified in 4, might have got a couple of top 6 prizes, but never had any medals. I think it was 1 year I came 4th in the swords. And at that point in time, it occurred to me that, wow, that wasn't the Worlds then, that was still just in Scottish, that, hey, I'm 4th best dancer in my age group in the world for the people at Dunoon at that point in time of year. Major event. And because it was Cowal, it actually did hold that prestige to me. Wasn't going to a normal comp or a normal championship and coming 4th. I was 4th at Cowal, where all the best dancers in the worlds were. It wasn't a world, it was only my age group, but it was a major bronze medal.
So Gareth, if I could maybe ask another question related to what you just said there, which is extremely interesting. You know, you mentioned turning up at Cowal year after year, you know, and not really winning, not really being a contender, you know, and if I'm right, you didn't actually win any individual first places at Cowal until you were 18, when you actually won the Worlds at the age of 18. That's the first Cowal championship you actually won. How could you possibly manage to go from not being a contender, turning up at Cowal every year, and then suddenly at the age of 18, you know, being world champion? Nowadays, they'd be doing drug tests and they'd be testing this and that, looking for bribes for the judges. You know, there's got to be some story in there, surely.
I don't know. I think it actually possibly stems back to that lucky 4th that I had. You're right. And before that, I turned up, went along, did it. So go back earlier in my dancing career. I won a boys' championship, confined and open, then nothing for years. Got a Cowal, got that 4th, and suddenly it occurred to me that I actually could win something. I'd seen you win all your prizes. That came as it was. Pushing away, started practicing, and I was moving up the realms within Cowal. All of a sudden, I think, was I at uni? I must have been at uni at that point in time. I had more spare time, putting in an incredible amount of practice, and just I think possibly the last year of the juvenile, I think I did all right that year. And it occurred to me that I actually had a chance of doing okay at Cowal. Then put in the work, had the determination, and from that point on, I think my attitude to dancing at Cowal was completely different. Prior to that, I was going along hoping to get a medal. But by the time I actually reached the adults, was confident enough in what Mum had been telling me and how I'd been dancing, that I'd been competing with you, dancing with you, going to Highland Games, that I knew I was there and I had a chance. Whether there was a bit of confidence came through in what I'm doing, but at the end of the day, it was being prepared. Done all the dancing, came through. How I made the leap from nowhere, picking it up first year in adults, no idea. Just as well, they didn't drug test. I was in a lot of painkillers.
I think, you know, what I've heard there, Gareth, that's fantastic. I mean, basically what you're saying is lots of hard work, increasing the practicing, and also confidence as well. And Diane, you know, I'm really keen to come back to you on this, because Gareth's talking about the tuition he got there, the confidence he got from having a close family member that taught him well, gave him the confidence. And as I've said in your introduction, the number of champions you've had, champions at Cowal, champions in the US, you know, you've had a world champion. I'd absolutely love you to maybe talk about, you know, in particular, you know, 1997 for me would be brilliant if you can, you know, the number of years you came across, and you had some really close hits around the worlds where very nearly won the worlds, and then suddenly Michelle pops up, dances amazingly, and wins that world championship. What do you remember about 1997, Dan? And did you do anything different? Did you train differently? Did you work harder? You know, is it a combination of things?
No, you know, Deryck, bless your heart. I got goosebumps because I can still remember that, you know. And in fact, I still have this bottle. I was going to show this bottle of whiskey that came from Cowal in 1997. I don't know that they do it anymore, but if they would start doing gin, I know that I'd buy some every year.
They do, Diane. That's the one Ronnie's been looking for year on year at the end of the games.
If Donald and Christine gave it to me when Michelle won the worlds, anyway, the 97 year was very exciting. Oh my gosh. Remember, Michelle had tied the year before with Colleen.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And then was first runner up. And that itself was exciting. Okay. Just to even think about even tying. But then for her to actually win it. You know, and Michelle was a hard worker. There was no change. Maybe her confidence was a bit better by doing so well the year before. Yeah. I mean, she won the Scottish at 13, and then, you know, but I don't know that there was any different training. Maybe just as Gareth said, maybe just that personal confidence and getting up and just going dancing your best. Rachel, you've now given me something new. Okay, I'll be having in my little case here, a little whiskey behind the ears and see if that for us Americans.
And it's amazing, Dan, because there's such fine margins between, you know, being first and then coming runner-up. You know, as you mentioned, I was going to say to you, you know, you had Michelle tying, just missing out in the Worlds. You also had Laura Jozovitz. It was very close, and then of course Laura made a slight faux pas on one of the dances as well, as we know, which is costly. And these fine margins they make such a difference between walking out on the day as the champion or walking out with your head held high saying I've done brilliantly, but just not quite enough.
No, that's right. You know, and there was Carla who won the fling at 13s, you know, in the juvenile. So I mean, you know, there's just so many different things that over the years. But you know, Cowal is Cowal, and you see some dancers coming through, and you go, wow, and they that's when people peak. You know what I mean? They peak on that Saturday. But I remember when Gareth was saying, you know, you would be standing in the stands or even behind the stands going, okay, when they call out the qualifiers for the fling, and you go, whew, okay, all right, Laura, you made it through, hun. You know, and then the swords. Oh, yeah. And so it, you know, and those were exciting times. And that's when you really danced. I mean, you know, 8 dances you guys did. You know, they're not doing that nowadays. Nowadays, they're even changing things, okay? But remember when you guys all danced, you danced 4 and then you qualified to see if you could dance the 4.
Yeah,
So,
absolutely. No, I totally agree. Rachel, I'm going to pick up on something that Diane said there about peaking at the right time. You know, and that's something that's so important at Cowal. You've got that last weekend in August that you've got to build that entire dancing year up to. And you know, how did you manage to peak that year? You know, did you go in that year knowing you were extra confident? You'd had a great year, and you knew you were really one of the contenders. But how on earth do you manage to actually balance your year so that weekend you peak and you're at your best?
Yeah, I mean, I think you'll all know as well. It's because it's, you know, it's always there every year. It doesn't move around. That weekend is always what you gear towards. So I think as you get older, you know, and you sort of get to know yourself as a dancer, and your teacher gets to understand, you know, as you're growing up, what works for you in terms of your training, then it's easier to sort of plan what your year needs to look like, you know, and when you need to be focusing on stamina and strength and technique and building it that way. So, you know, I think it's always the goal. You know, Cowal is always, that was always the weekend that you were working towards all through the year. So yeah, it was just, I think in 2002 in particular, if anything, I probably was more relaxed than in other years because, you know, coming into the juniors at 16, you know, you there's a bit of a sort of underdog feel, you know, that you kind of can almost say to yourself, oh, it's okay because nobody expects too much if, you know, the 16s coming in. I mean, I'm not sure that's entirely true, but there's a little bit of a sort of, you know, you can play a wee psychological game with yourself there. And yeah, it takes the pressure off a little bit, I think, coming in that year. But I think possibly also because, you know, all through the year, certainly my competitive days anyway, it was, you danced mostly as 16 and 17 years combined as well. You know, so you're a bit more settled into the group. You sort of know, I don't know, I think I probably did relax a little bit more, and I knew I was a bit more mature maybe in my dancing, and I knew how to sort of manage my training a little bit better. So it's sort of a culmination, I think, of all the years that have gone before as well, and all the learnings from those years, as well as what you do in that 8-month spell from January to August, you know, in any one particular year. So yeah, lots of learnings, and just building on, you know, what you've done before.
And do you remember back to 2002? Was it one of these years you finished the reel when you thought it's kind of all clicked, it's all worked? I've had 4 good dances, and you know, I couldn't have done much better. Okay, as we've said before, it's Cowal, it's then up to the judges. It can go lots of different ways, but sometimes you do get that feel when you finish, which is, you know what, it's gone as well as it can, and hopefully it could be me this year.
Yeah, I mean, there had been, you know, there'd been years at Cowal where you finish and different things had happened. You know, I had a year, I think when I was 13, made a mistake in the fling, you know, at world finals, and, you know, another year you maybe touched a sword at some point, or, you know, so it's not every year that things come together. Even, you know, you can go in with the best preparation and still, you know, it's what happens on the day. But yeah, I do remember particularly, I think it's sort of 14, 15 and 16, you know, in those years, you know, I remember finishing and thinking there is nothing else I could have done today. You know, it's all out there, and actually feeling happy in my performance and going, well, as you say, it's now over to the judges, but I'm happy in myself, and I you know, there's nothing else I could have done. And it's a funny, I can remember it so clearly. You know, you think about that moment, and I don't know if you're the same, when you know, you were standing waiting for those 16 high cuts at the end of a reel, you know, or coming, I don't know if we had a Highland reel that year, but coming into them and in your head going, this is the last 16 counts, like you've done as much as you can, now it really matters. And it's a sort of kind of, I still get a bit of kind of goosebumps when I think about that feeling, and then the feeling on the last one, if they've gone well. You know, thinking that was it. It's that's all been worth it. I've done everything I possibly can, and being able to then turn and look at that grandstand and bow and feel that kind of relief and happiness of, I did it. And it, you know, for that brief moment, it doesn't really matter what happens next, because you've done all you possibly can. And that's a really great feeling. So I think that it's, you know, years like 2002 going in at 16, and then, you know, 18 coming into the adults, where the expectations and the hopes are a little bit different. You're going, well, that's the feeling I was here for, that feeling of I've done everything I can and I get to stand and look at this incredible auditorium of people and feel happy with myself. So, and if it works out well, the results, then great.
And you did mention being relaxed. That's if you can bring it all together and actually dance and look like you're confident but relaxed with it as well. Because I can remember 2002, and that did come through. When you danced, absolutely did. 4 great dances, very relaxed. Very confident. And that's why I was asking. Sometimes things do just click into gear on the right day. Sometimes it doesn't, but on that day for you, it certainly did. It was absolutely brilliant.
Thank you.
Gareth, I'm going to ask you something. So Diane mentioned we used to do the 8 dances on the same day. So I'm going to take you all the way back to 1985. One of the famous monsoon years at Cowal. We've had quite a few of them. And if I recall rightly, Gareth, I think you actually did 9 dances that day rather than 8. I think you actually did an extra sword dance just for the fun of it because you loved the swords. Is that right in my memory?
Yes, it absolutely is. I have to say, I much preferred Cowal in the rain. They were all my better years. Every time it rained, that was a good omen for me. But yeah, that particular rain, we danced the heats outside and it was hammering down. And back at that point, Cowal possibly was more like a traditional Highland Games. There were no warm-up tents, there were no warm-up boards, and there was no covering on the top. So we were dancing ankle deep in sawdust. People were slipping every single dance. We'd done all 4 in the morning. It brought on the callbacks for the finals in the afternoon. Did the flying, we did the swords. I got through my swords. I was quite chuffed with that. And just after my set, there'd been quite a few people slipping and kicking the swords and falling. Then they announced, we're going to move into the hall down to the Queen's. So I thought, all right, well, that's me. I've done mine. I've got through mine. I'm quite happy. But we got down to Queen's, and then they lined everyone back up again. We all had to do the swords again. I think mine was the first set up. I was the only one who got through it. So I would go and do swords number 3 for the day, thinking, oh my God, I've walked through my first 2. I'm going to have to go through it again. And unlike a lot of dancers these days, I didn't ever take my dancing shoes off. I got up Cowal morning, it's all Saturday, it's all done in one day. My dancing shoes, kilt outfit, all went on, 7 o'clock in the morning, my pumps were on. They didn't come off till the end of the day. So moving from the Queen's down to, from the stadium down to Queen's, put my trainers on tops, got down to the hall, my shoes were soaked, my kilt was soaked, socks were soaked. But on the plus side, I didn't have to wet my feet before I went on. The moisture coming out. But yeah, 9 dances, wandered through, did them, finished it.
And how Gareth, how was the pressure of, do you know what, I used to hate doing the swords at Cowal. Out of every dance, I loved the fling. You got a great start. You stood there and you stared at that sword and you thought, oh, here goes. I'm just going to lose my balance. I'm going to touch it. The worlds will be over for another year. Yeah, you did 2 sword finals. I can remember you doing that, both brilliantly, by the way. And, the pressure on that second swords to say, well, I did the first one. The judges have thrown the marks away and they're away to judge me again and then not to touch it the second time. That's real pressure.
It probably is. But again, this is bizarre on this call, obviously having Deryck and I on it. Deryck and I attacked Cowal in a different way. Deryck did the heats. Coming from a background of having won all the championships, won all the Scottish, done the bits, he did the heats. He coasted through. He did 80%, enough to get through. I never had any idea how I was dancing. So I had to go full pelt every dance. So when it came to my final sword, it was the same as every other sword. Go full pelt is I either do it and it's really, really good, or I do it and I kick it, but it was really good up until the point I could kick it. I could never ever coast the swords. By dancing, it was all or nothing. It wasn't a nothing. It was just absolutely go for it. Plus, as a wee bonus, I love the swords anyway. It's one of the dances I practiced so much, practiced with the swords anyway. I actually just loved the swords. So doing 3 of them wasn't a problem. Actually, a bit of a bonus to me.
Well, I think you'll always go down in the history books for these 3 swords in the same day at Cowal. As Diane said, they do one nowadays at Cowal. So it's much changed there. Gareth, what do you remember similar to Rachel? At the end of that reel you did in 1985, you talked about building up and starting to get confidence, certainly working a lot harder than you had been doing. You finished these high kicks at the reel. Like Rachel, I can't remember, was it a propel pivot top?
By the time we finished that reel again, we'd done a load of dances, we started outside, we moved inside. I was soaked, but Did I look up at the end of it? No, I actually probably looked downwards. Unlike most dancers, I actually wasn't looking up. I finished, did my bow, looked down at the feet. And one of the reasons was that when I started the introduction for that final reel of the finals, my shoelace burst as I bowed. So right up the front of the shoe, so where they all cross, 3 or 4 of them burst. Obviously, they had got to the point of being so wet and so wrecked that they just died. Fortunately, my feet were so wet and the shoes were so tiny that they stayed on my feet. So when I got to the end, finished out, did my bits, didn't concentrate on the dance either. I pushed for my dance. I, as I said, I don't pull back because something's not going right. Push all the way through. If the shoe come off. If I'd only gone 80%, then I hadn't danced right. So I got to the end, did my bow, had a quick look. Shoe was still there. That was fine. I was quite happy. What most people do.
But you had an eventful day, which of course ended up well. Would you say that was your most special World Championship, that first one, or was it the last one, or one in between?
That one was. I mean, that was the first time I'd won it. You won it the same year, so we both won it. Picked it up there. Mum had won it 20 years prior to that, so that was absolutely, from the purpose of my competition time at Cowal, the most special Cowal, my best ever Worlds. And probably also the one that I was least injured at as well, so a bit of a bonus in there too.
Good, thanks, Gareth. Rachel, I'm going to ask you another question, this time about judging, because you judged Cowal, was that 2014?
Yes, it was.
You judged Cowal, and how different was that for you? So rather than being on the boards, being the one that's competing, being one of the judges and being one of the ones that decides, how was that feeling, being a world champion and then suddenly being at the shoe on the other foot, to be honest, sitting being one of the judges?
Yeah, it's quite a different feeling, but nerve-wracking in its own way, I think, because you're just so aware of how important it is to the dancers. And I think because I'd only fully stopped competing 3 years previously, so you're still sort of relatively close to, or you still kid yourself on, you're relatively close to the competitive side of it, and it's all those memories of standing on those boards is still really fresh. So I think you have this sense of responsibility that like you do every time you judge, but particularly somewhere like the World at Cowal, you're so very aware of how much effort has gone into it, how important it is to those dancers. So it's a real privilege, I think, to be able to sit in one of those judging chairs. It really is an honour to be on the panel for the whole weekend, and particularly on that Saturday. It's a very special day, and it was special for me as well because it was 20 years since I'd won my first Scottish, so it was a nice little kind of, it bookended that wee anniversary quite nicely for me. So it was a really, really important day. But yeah, it's funny because you sit in the seats and obviously that everybody's watching the dancers, but you're still aware of that that massive grandstand behind you, and that everybody's kind of looking down, so there's still that real kind of atmosphere, that sort of cauldron feeling of everybody looking down around you when you're judging. It's special as well.
And how difficult is it to concentrate? You've got probably some of the biggest groups you'll ever judge, coming up, and brilliant talent all the way through and great standard, and having to concentrate. The long days, long days starting early, finishing late in the evening, and then back the next day to do the same thing as well. How difficult is that to concentrate all the way through every count of every step where you're judging, Rachel?
I think it's. I mean, in Scotland, I guess we're. We have a lot of big championships through the year anyway, so a lot of your judging days are quite long days. Cowal obviously is exceptional because it's the 3 days back to back, but I think it's that knowing what what you're there to do. This huge, as I said, that huge responsibility is there. So really that's what the job is. That's what you train to do as a judge. It's how it's what you practice for when you're training to sit your judges exam. So that's that is what it is. But it's sort of the fact that you're watching such incredible dancing, helps, because you're completely absorbed in what you're seeing in front of you. And it's such, it's especially when it comes to Saturday, it's such fine margins, that it's, actually you almost go, could see everything again. Like you could watch it 2 or 3 times over, because it's such incredible, quality of dancing that you're seeing. So it's, as well as being, hard work and a long day, it's really enjoyable as well, because it's the best of the best. So that helps.
Great. Super, thanks. Diane, back to you again. When Michelle won in 1997, that was the first win by a US dancer for several years. I can't remember exactly how years, but very much the mold was broken, and we've obviously had quite a few, US world champions since as well. So very much, Michelle trailblazed what was to come. How proud are you of, what's happening at the moment with dancing in the US, definitely on a huge upturn?
Oh, again, Deryck, as soon as you said that, I just filled with goosebumps. It's so exciting to see the American dancers and to see so many different ones, coming through and being so successful. It's fabulous, actually. And, you've seen some dancing, lots of great dancers coming out of California and all over the US, actually. There's some nice dancers, but Linda's done a great job, and just the dancers have. But it was very exciting back in 1997. I got to tell you, it was one of those things that you never thought. I actually thought the year beforehand, I said, oh my gosh, to be that close. Yeah. But then to actually have it happen was truly the ultimate.
And you do need success to breed success, Diane. That's why I think that win for Michelle was so important in the US, because it gives the country, they see the world's coming back. It gives the country belief that the hard work, the preparation, the quality of teaching, etc., it's going to end up with some great results at Cowal. And it's so important. And you get that, and very much back to what some of the work that Linda's been doing as well. It's you very much get a bit of momentum around winning. You get used to some of that winning as well, and everybody's hungry. Everybody wants to be part of that. And that's what Highland dancing's like at the moment in the US. It must be an exciting time to be in the US.
Well, it is. And you know what, honey, because you see those dancers getting better and better and better, where I think the whole standard, the whole US as a country has gotten better over the year. I mean, don't get me wrong. I mean, we've always had a few, successful ones. But I think you're getting more numbers nowadays. You know what I mean? Coming through and perhaps even qualifying. But it's very exciting, because a lot of times we were kind of the backseat to the Canadians. Yeah. So it's very exciting to see those Americans, in the stands, and see more people come across as well.
Absolutely. No, I agree with you. I think it's the overall standards coming up rather than the one or two individuals. It's great to see quality and lots of the dancers coming across in the US. That's really quite exciting. Another question for you, Diane. I'm reading the number of years you've been coming across to Cowal. There's bound to be one year or one moment or something. It could again just be that 1997 Michelle moment, but what's that outstanding, or maybe even a couple of outstanding moments for you? We'll give you the Michelle year as probably that most outstanding moment. What's some other brilliant, outstanding moments for you, Diane?
Oh, Deryck, there's so many. I mean, there's all kinds of different things. I'll tell you, one of the things that was great to see. All right, on the Wednesday, I think the Tuesday or the Wednesday, Joy would have like a dinner, pasta dinner for these kids to have. They play spoons, and all these kids were competing against each other. There's Colleen Rintamaki, Erin Welk, Michelle Kamagan, Elaine McDonald. Okay, those 4 kids, along with other kids, are all playing these spoons. We're all sitting outside, having a great time. And those 4 were top 4 in the world final. Okay, and 3 days beforehand, they were all sitting down playing these spoons and having fun and laughing, and the camaraderie and that those competitors being friendly and the teachers all being friendly, and that certainly is an exciting time. I mean, I don't want to say an exciting time, but it was great to see that. It was great to see that friendship happening there, and then getting up on the platform and being a totally different person and being that competitor. Do you know what I mean? There's, a lot of, great times with Laura and with Courtney. And, I remember, you 2 even coming over, In fact, you know, they got to go to the Mitchelson party and I'm sitting back home. Okay. Those were great times, and hearing about that, and, you know,
I think you're right. That there's a friendship that runs through Highland dancing. You know, you're doing these 4 dances, and you know, you're at war during these 4 dances, but that's the only time. You know, before and after things, it's a very, very warm, supportive, friendly type of sport to do. And I think you're 100% right with what you say. Very, very supportive. Everyone's there backing each other. You know, other than for those 90 seconds when you're on that platform, and it's all about you, isn't it?
And, you know, it's very nice, you know, when you see the likes of your mom saying, well done today, or you see the people in the audience, people that you admire sitting in the stands at year after year, and when they turn around, they say, oh, she danced well today, or, you know, they did well today. You know, like, it's like, you know, to have the respect and the confirmation by some of the greats, okay, who are sitting in the stands. Wow. That's, you know, that's very exciting. It's kind of like, it means a lot.
It's quite humbling, isn't it? Yeah, absolutely.
It's very humbling, you know, and you sit there and, you know, because you're sitting there and when you say you all are calm, okay, and being that the last thing that I am the day of Cowal, or even leading up to sitting in the stands being calm, you know?
It can be quite intimidating as well, remember, Diane. You know, I remember sitting there looking at all these greats in the stand. That's you know, when you're doing these world finals, that's quite an intimidating thing as well. You know, as well as Rachel saying she can remain calm, I don't think there was a calm bone in my body when I danced at Cowal at all, to be honest.
You know, it's exciting to see who's coming through next, you know, as far as where you're coming up, who's coming up on the stage, you know, who's coming up, and who are they dancing with in this dance, you know what I mean? But the camaraderie, the friendships.
Yeah, it's special. Absolutely special. Gareth, I'm going to, you know, Dan mentioned the time Michelle tied in 1996 and didn't win the Worlds. You know, you tied in 1986. Yeah. And, you know, came second to Gregor. You know, that was, you know, otherwise you might have had five Worlds in a row. We get a lot of ties at Cowal. You know, recently we seem to be getting more and more ties at Cowal, and just keen to get your thoughts on, first of all, why you think we're getting so many ties at Cowal, and also, you know, is there a better way of actually splitting the ties? You know, should there be some sort of final? Well, you would of course like a final sword dance off, but a final could have done 4 swords, a final fling dance off. You know, is there a better way of actually splitting these ties than what we've got at the moment?
It's strange to say. I mean, Cowal, there's lots of uniques about Cowal. Cowal, obviously, it's the World Championship. It's the one everybody goes to. It's also an extremely open championship. Anybody can turn up and dance at Cowal, as long as you're registered, of course. You turn up, you dance. So you do all that. So you end up, that becomes part of the problem, so to speak, in the ties, is that you end up having so many dancers. There's no easy way to narrow the number of dancers down. I think when we were dancing, there were probably fewer because you qualified for dance as long as you had a top 6 from a judge. I think it was something along those lines. Whereas now there's 20 get through, 10 from each heat. There maybe are slightly more dancers getting through. How can you move away and eliminate the ties? I think possibly have another look again at the point system. I know that when I was competing, there was 1 point system. Not long after that, there was a different point system that had different connotations to it. When I have a 3rd one, something that all of those have had in common, or certainly the last 2, is they've been looking at the points based on the 4 dances. So trying to figure out, there's 3 first beat, the first and 3 seconds. How does things work on 4 dances? But what you need to also remember is in each dance, we have 3 judges. So there's a thought process there. Do we actually need 2 point systems? One that actually come up with the individual dance result is going to result in less ties within a dance, and then a second one that has that purely takes the 4 dances on board. And part of that may well be a case of perhaps needing fewer dancers to make it through to the finals. Now, I don't know the ways to do that. There are loads of discussions on Cowal every year. Should the previous winners get a bye and jump straight into the final? Should the winners of the Canadians, the USIR, and the Scottish Championships, should they get a bye and jump instantly into the final? They would then have an advantage of not having done as many dances. That wouldn't have suited me. We were dancing all day, every day. Doing 8 in a day was fine. Doing 9 a day was fine. Could have probably thrown another couple, still been fit enough to do it. So fitness at that point in time, that was one of my benefits. Putting some people through in a bye, it's then not a level playing field, because some people are doing fewer dances, but you do say, is it possibly fairer? Can you reduce number? I don't know what the answer is. Should we maybe have, instead of a panel of 3 judges, panel 4 judges? In which case the point system wouldn't be changed. We've got 4 judges per dance and 4 dances. So we then bring in an extra judge, which changes the allocation of marks as well.
Mm-hmm. Definitely food for thought. It's just, it's one of these things. I think everybody sitting at Cowal, if you're all like me anyway, the last few years I've been as the MC reading out the results, and the first thing I look for to say is, please tell me it's not a tie. Because that tie situation is just one of the worst things in the world. That's why we changed it the last few years, whereby we no longer have them sitting like Michelle did in the stand, Diane, and waiting to see, who won on a tie. We now break that tie immediately, just because I don't think it's fair. But it's definitely that first thing I look to say, please tell me it's not another tie, because it just feels like, the winner kind of feels like the one on a tie, and the one that's second feels like lost it on a tie. And it's, that's why I'm asking that question. I don't know if there's an answer either, but
maybe
really interesting to know.
Dance marks and just go straight to 1 to 6. That way there's no ties, everything, you can announce the ties later on. Again, jumping back where it used to be, things have changed dramatically. As you said, you bring out an entire group's results, they come up, they get the results, you read out the winner right away. It was a tie, it's split, hopefully it's not split. When we were competing, it was a manual system, so they wouldn't even read out all the results of one group. They might read out the under-16s fling, then they do the under-16 swords because it happened to be there, then it might jump to be the adults fling. So you could actually be sitting there, you've got 3 dances, the marks are spread all over the place, and you've got another 3 sets of results before you even get your reel done. You've got no idea where things are.
I often wondered if that was just Billy that had them in his pocket, and he brought them out in specific orders. To be honest, Gareth, I've never asked Billy if that's the case or not, but I think that's definitely one for conversation. I think, as to whether he did have them all and he was sitting on them. Rachel, I'm going to ask you about something you're doing for us this year.
Yes.
Ronnie and I got on the phone with you a few weeks ago and talked about the possibility of doing a special Cowal choreography with some. With some past winners and dancing legends. Any chance you could just tell us something about what you're doing, who's taking part, what this is going to look like, etc.
Yes. So I don't know how much of it's meant to be a surprise, but I was really thrilled when Ronnie emailed and to kind of chat through ideas with you both. It was really exciting. So we're working with the top 2 first and second place winners in the juvenile, junior and adult worlds from the last couple of years, and we're putting together a special choreography with them. We're using a lovely scary Vortrack, so over the next sort of few days we'll be recording steps in different parts of Canada and Scotland and the USA, and piecing together a nice story, a little bit of a sort of a love letter to Cowal, if you like, a little tribute to everybody's individual journeys to the World Championships. So it's not obviously the same as being there, but it's lovely that to be able to do something to sort of celebrate this year in some way. So yeah, it's all underway. There's lots of chat going back and forth between the dancers now. So hopefully within the next couple of weeks we'll have something ready to share.
Good, and I know you do lots of choreography and dancing out with flings and things, etc. as well. Is this the first one that you've done where you've done it across continents using sort of video conferencing technology to try and bring people together? It's a really unusual thing to try and do a choreography that way.
Yeah, it's the first one we've done in this way. Obviously, during the sort of lockdown phase, we've been involved in a few different sort of virtual projects, but nothing that's this sort of scale where we're actually trying to kind of build a story and tell a story together. Other events that we've done, it's been sort of different people from different countries maybe dance a particular step, and it just all comes together as a bit of a celebration. But what we're trying to do with this one is actually tell a bit of a story all the way through it. So it's going to be quite challenging. Obviously, different time zones and different availability and different costumes, and so it's fun piecing it all together. So hopefully it'll come across the way I'm sort of envisaging it in my head. But such incredibly talented dancers. It's such an amazing privilege to be able to work with them. They're so enthusiastic, and I think it's going to be hopefully going to be pretty special.
Well, I'm so excited to see it as well, and I know Gareth and Dan are nodding their head along with you, both saying, "Cannot wait for that weekend to see what you've done." I'll be having a look to see if there's any little sneak previews. I'll be getting before then as well. It's brilliant to be doing such a thing, Rachel.
Yeah, it's really it's great to be able to do something, just a bit of a sort of celebration. So yeah, it's good.
Good, Dan. I'm going to just a last round of questions before we wrap up there. So I'm just going to come back to yourself to say, it's well, first of all, it's been a privilege having you on. Diane, have you got any last thoughts as to any aspiring dancers thinking about ploughing that path to Cowal, as to any advice for them, what you would say to them, how you would start to get them started, get them motivated in that long journey from being, a 6, 7, 8-year-old dancer to somebody who one day dreams like Rachel of standing there and winning the Worlds?
Deryck, first of all, it's been a privilege to be chosen and to be here, and especially with you three. So thank you. And thank you, Ronnie. I have a picture of Dunoon in our dance room. Okay. And it's actually, I do. And I'll say, now that's what you want to be working towards. Okay. And I'll say, now see that. And how we used to come across on the ferry, and you could see, because you would just see the pier and everything. You want every child to have the opportunity to think about, I might have that possibility, and there was Gareth, a perfect example. He waited, it was until the adults when it came through on that Cowal platform. Although Gareth, I can remember watching you, honey, for years prior to that. Okay, so you were close. It might have been just that 18s, but go for your passion. Okay, and if you love Highland, if Highland is your passion, as it is mine, then work hard. Okay, nothing's ever handed to anybody on a silver platter. Okay, work hard, set some goals for yourself, and it may not happen that year. It may not happen the next year. It may never happen. But when you're up there dancing against the best of the best, and to be a part of the best of the best, and not just the dancers, even the teachers, when you leave Dunoon after that world championship, I come home going, okay, ladies, gentlemen, we're getting ready to work hard for next year. It's truly the most inspirational weekend, coming back, leaving and going, wow, awesome dancing. And it wasn't just 3 awesome dancers, there were 18 awesome dancers. You know what I mean? And everybody should, if that's their dreams, then work hard for it. Don't ever give up, and listen to your teacher. Okay. Listen to your teacher. He knows what they're talking about. I would like to say though, Deryck, I want to thank the Cowal committee for the past several years of live streaming. I know that people back home, sometimes the parents can't come over. And I would just like to say thank you to the Cowal committee and everybody working so hard to do that. And also to all the improvements over the years. You think about now with the covering over the main stand and even the seating, the stands. No, we don't have backship, but you see things improving one year to another. And if I could recommend anybody doing anything, become a friend of Cowal. Being able to go in the plastic, see when it might be raining. World Championship with a wee gin and tonic, I'll tell you, it's worth every penny of it.
Super.
Every penny of it. All I can say to everybody is just keep working hard and don't base it on just one competition at one time.
Absolutely.
Keep working hard and go for your dreams.
Brilliant. Thanks. That's absolutely great advice, Dan. Gareth, a slightly different last question for you. the question for you is that, you won that 4th Worlds out of 5 years, and then, you then retired from Cowal. Any regrets there? Do you feel you maybe retired slightly earlier? I won several Worlds after that. I know Gregor continued for several years and won several Worlds after that as well. And I'm just keen to know, when did you know that was the right time to stop, or now sitting here, do you think I maybe did have another year or two in me?
I regret every day having retired from dancing. Every time I go to a competition, I think I should still be dancing. In relation to Cowal, it probably was the right time. A couple of reasons thrown into that. One, I was competing in the same group as you at that point in time. Now, Deryck and I, we had a great competition attitude between the two of us. We went in, we were both there to beat each other, but we were there to beat everybody else. So it was competition within the family, at the class, the whole lot. When we went to Cowal and some of the large championships, sometimes we did feel that we almost got in each other's way. That I might be picking up a prize that perhaps should have been Deryck's. Deryck might have picked up a prize that perhaps should have been mine. And as I said, we were almost taken away from each other. If Deryck hadn't been competing and hadn't been in that section, would I have gone on for another couple of years? Quite possibly. If I hadn't been there, Deryck, his first couple of years in the adults would have changed. May have done. So that's one reason. So it's not, I didn't want to compete against Deryck. I loved competing against Deryck. We pushed each other to be better every single day. We pushed and pushed and pushed. The other reason was to do with Dunoon Royal Infirmary. Time I got to 1989, I had my second set of Dunoon crutches. They were running out of crutches. They'd run out of first aid supplies for me. And I was really seriously concerned that the local residents would have problems come winter if I was to continue competing. So all those things put together, I thought, no, I've done my bit, got my phone, I'll sit back and watch.
Well, I appreciate you retiring. If it helped me win one of these 2 first Worlds, Gareth, then
Yeah.
I absolutely appreciate you retiring when you did. So thank you for that. Rachel, last words for you. It's the biggest, it's the best in the world, Cowal. It's where everyone wants to go. Why is Cowal so special? Why is it Cowal? Why is it everybody, all the focus is there to turn up on that weekend to do the best? What makes that magic at Cowal?
Oh, there's so many things I think that really make it magical. I mean, the fact that it is your world championship, obviously that's then going to attract the best in the world. That's what you're going to work towards as a dancer. But there's just something about the arena, and it's so hard to sort of describe exactly what it is, but you feel it when you walk in the gates. Even now, I still feel, I get the kind of nervous feeling even just coming in as a spectator, because it's just years and years of history and tradition. And, you look through the trophy room and you see the pipe band trophies and the dancing trophies and the hundreds of years of history there. I remember the centenary year. I must have been 7 or 8 when it was the centenary, and they presented all of the, past world champions, and, you were both on the boards there being presented with a commemorative, medal. It's just, there's so much has sort of gone before you in that arena. That the little changing room, which, Diana, usually run into you in that little changing room under the grandstand it had the tunnel. You used to be able to walk through the tunnel and out onto the track, and then a runner would come straight past you as you were heading for the, for the warm-up boards. And it's just, all those little memories. I think back on Cowal, and of course the successful days are so special and are up there as your most special memories in Highland dancing. But actually, there's so many other memories that kind of make you smile, that stand out. The days in the rain. 1997, that was some of the worst rain I think I've ever seen. And I remember watching Michelle and, that the rain howling across the boards, and but that's, everybody gets together and supports each other. You have the celebration parties afterwards where you meet everyone. It's become such an integral part of our Highland dancing calendar. Wherever you're from in the world, Cowal is up there as the place that you want to dance. You want to stand on those boards, and that it doesn't matter, I think, whether your goal is to win the Worlds or to win a medal or to qualify in a dance or just to be there. It's something I think everybody now wants to experience because of all these stories and all these years of tradition. And, you know, as Diane said, the improvements over the last, you know, kind of 10, 15, 20 years have been incredible. You know, and it's just, there's just real love for Highland dancing in the place, and that's palpable in the crowd, in the people that are, you know, that are running it, Ronnie's team and all the helpers. Everybody's there because they love Highland dancing and they love Cowal and they love the pipe bands and the heavies and the athletics and everything that goes with it. And it's just, it's a real sort of family community feel, and it's magical.
It certainly is. And you know what I think as well, when this transmission goes out, I'm sure there'll be some young dancers that haven't danced at Cowal will see that excitement in the three of you and the energy, and they'll be absolutely itching to get there next year to start out their Cowal journey, and there's something special about that. So I'm going to wrap up there, and before I do, can I just once again say absolutely thanks. It's been a pleasure for having Diane, Rachel and Gareth on this session. I look forward to seeing that choreography. I cannot wait to see that, Rachel. That'll be something really special. And please, all of you, stay safe, take care, and thanks to everyone for watching this as well. Thank you all.
Thank you very much.
Bye.